Recording. All right, cool. We're on. Um, I guess I want to start with a question to Lua. Um, I was wondering what did you think LA was gonna be like versus what you know it as of now? Like, did you think did you think it was gonna be something, but now you like see it as something different?
Yeah, so my whole assumption of Los Angeles was that, it was going to be like the glamorized version of The Hills
Yeah.
or like 90210. I thought it was going to be, all pretentious people, you know, uh, uh, obviously, not like everywhere, but in like the major parts of the city, it was going to be only pretentious people. And what I've come to realize is you do get some of those people, but you only get them in spaces where people feel the need to show off. Like, it's rare in LA where you find people that feel the need to show off because it's such a big city, so like depending on what gym I go to or what grocery store I go to, you'll have like those people with their like nose held up high. Like, do you know, like when you hear the term, do you know who I am? Like actually in real life, it's like the most hilarious. Because you're just like, well, clearly not. Like, yeah, it's funny because like, I was one of those people that had this like weird prejudice for Los Angeles, you know, uh, spending a little bit of time in New York, like that's where all my energy was kind of like gravitated towards because I like the idea of, too many people where no one really cares what you're doing. And like the energy in New York is so great. And I didn't know how it was going to be like in LA. And I find that, depending on what neighborhood you're in, uh, it can still feel like people care too much about what you're doing, but try not to. It's like that thing of like, oh, you're existing in my space, so you must have some sort of relevance to this space. But I can't acknowledge that because if I acknowledge that, that demeans my relevance in this space. So you'll get a lot of that energy. It's a very funny thing, but I think like LA is it's the hub of uh United States personality. Like you really get every version of people in Los Angeles, and you can decide to entertain that or shy away from it depending on, the people that gravitate towards you. You know?
Do you think people are trying too hard there to like be somebody at all times?
Uh, you know, again, it just depends on who it is. Like, not everybody, right? Like, you meet a lot of genuine people here because a lot of people do come from other states that you meet. So they bring, a lot of their values to California. I find that it's usually the people that are born here that are a lot, and like a lot of people say, like, oh, like LA natives are actually the best is the people that move here that are shitty. No, the LA natives. I think the natives are the worst people in terms of personality because they don't get excited by anything. Like they try to act nonchalant about everything. And I'm like, no, be a real person. Like,
Yeah.
like if you see like Jennifer Aniston in a grocery store, as a human being, you should be like, hey, that's Jennifer Aniston. That's kind of nice. But
No
that's
matter where
that.
you come from.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks.
Exactly. But like some people born here, they're like, ah, she's always here. Just takes up all the strawberries. I'm like, no.
I I think just from hearing your perspective, I think where that mentality comes from, it's this idea that every single moment is like a big dick contest.
Yeah.
So it's like if you don't metaphorically have the biggest dick, you're fucked. And like the idea of the natives hating the newcomers. It's because there's a sense of authenticity and a sense of realness that they don't have and lack, and they can see that, and they're like, damn, like if they meet the right people, people would gravitate towards that. And me, like being here, I don't have that. So I have
Yeah.
to always make sure that I feel like this all the time, or else it all comes crushing down from an ego perspective.
Yeah. See, it's also an interesting thing too, especially when it comes to wealth in Los Angeles. Like what I find, and this is just something that's prevalent in just like knowledge of people, but it's just so in your face in LA. But the people that are the most showboaty with their wealth are usually the ones that are struggling the most. Like, like it's that funny thing of like seeing the old white gentleman in the Prius and the button-down shirt, and then like he shows you his stock portfolio, and you're like, wow, it's $300 million in there, versus like the guy in the Rolls Royce that like wants to take you to a party, and then he's just like, "Do you think I can put like unleaded gas in this car?" And I'm like, "What?" It's that funny thing where it's just like, yeah, like, and again, for reasons I don't know. Like, I honestly
Well,
like, what did you say?
I think it's because once you can afford things, they lose value. Because
Exactly.
like, oh man, when am I gonna, oh, I wish I could have a Rolex and when am I gonna have one? And holy shit, and maybe I can put it on my credit card and blah 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 blah. But then if you have money to afford 50 Rolexes, it's like what's the point of like
Yeah, it's like buying a Casio.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
You only desire something because it's hard to get and it's difficult for you to get it. But once you can afford 50 of them, it's like, who cares? Uh,
Like it's a funny thing too, because like, especially like when you go into a gym like Equinox, like, you know, you kind of get a sense of this energy of like, okay, like you kind of understand why certain people buy certain things, right? Because it's like attraction signals, right? Not only to females but to other males to show that you're a competent individual.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like, like opposite sex attraction, which is like the main reason why a lot of men do these lavish things, what you realize, especially when it comes to the girls here, is that, you know, whenever you're talking about the difference between a V6 and a V8, like you're really only talking to guys,
Yeah.
right? So like the importance of this or the importance of this special Audemars PA watch only matters to people who care about it. And realistically, both men and women don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like it's a nice thing to look at, right? Like everything about, lavish things is definitely very appealing, but it's just that. It's just like looking at it is nice. Like being in it and living in it isn't that exciting. I mean, because once you get in a situation where you see something very nice that doesn't work, you're just like, oh well, then what's the point? Like, if it doesn't work, then what's the point of even caring about it?
Yeah.
Like the amount of times I've seen like Ferraris break down on the road here, it just it just makes me think like, huh,
Why?
I'm able to get where I need to go today, and this person is stuck on the road. It doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
like it's cool, but it doesn't matter as much because I'm still on the highway and you have to wait for AAA,
Yeah,
right? It's just
exactly.
like, yeah, like I don't know. It's a very funny phenomenon here, because like I think just the idea of seeing like massive amounts of wealth disparity in that wealth gap is just so easy. Like even like yesterday. I was in this house not too far away from me, and from the outside, I was just like, okay, this is like a pretty like standard house, right? It was like it looked like a one story, but the thing is about LA because they build on hills. The front of the house looks like a very small house, but as soon as you go to the back, adjacent the hill, it extends like 6 stories,
Six levels
right?
down. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, dang, like this is kind of the the hat trick of people who actually, care about nice things and don't care about telling people they have.
He's like, yeah, I have this nice little quaint house. And you go inside, it's like, bro, like you live in Lex Luger's pad, bro.
Yeah.
I just remembered one quote. I forgot who said it, but it was like the difference between music made in LA and music made in New York is that you can hear the struggle that it doesn't matter if you're rich in New York, at some point you're gonna have to use the subway no matter what. It's just convenience. Like it's not even like a wealth thing. It's like driving around New York is a pain in the ass, so people just take the subway, right? And you mix with everyone in the subway in New York. So and then in LA, if you're, I don't know, future, just in LA sitting, you can order anything. You can order DoorDash into your house in the hills. You don't need to go anywhere. And everything is delivered to you. So you kind of don't, I don't know if you guys agree, but you kind of hear the struggle or like the realness of like East Coast stuff versus like very clean, very comfy music made in LA. What do you guys think about that?
I think that I think it just depends on where you're at from an LA perspective. Because if I listen to like a Paris Hilton where she's just like, I wanna party all the time, then it's like, okay, yeah. But if I listen to like an EBK J-Bo where he's like, fuck Mark, fuck Lion, fuck Lon, fuck blah, and he's from like, Compton or wherever South Side LA, I'm like, okay, I feel that. So I think it just depends on like where you are from, like where you come from, like your roots.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because like, I think obviously like different regions bring out different sounds for different artists. So I think when it comes to just the New York style of everything, right? It's the energy is a lot more like you have to be on it. Like that's just the energy of the East Coast. And when it comes to Los Angeles, you know, like Femi said, the artists you can tell that have to stay on it, you can hear that energy of I have to stay on it because I'm in a place where if I'm not on it, I'm going to look like a mark, right? So, it's very easy to get away from that when you're here because like literally like, 15 minutes away from Compton is like the nicest houses you've ever seen, right? But like in New York, you're just like, okay, like it's all big buildings. Everything is in the sky, right? Now, I know the closer to the ground I am, the more I feel like a rat. But the closer I get to the sky, the more I feel like a god. So you're just like, okay, like how do I just get up there? It's like the energy of like, how do I get to the highest point, knowing that, you know, I'm in rarefied air. Versus here, it's just like we're all in this big swamp. You can go over that hill, but you might end up stuck somewhere.
Who's the latest best rapper from New York that you guys know of?
Best rapper from New
Like
York.
the most recent artist.
It, it's got it's gotta be Cash Cobain, Bay Swag, the whole kind of Slizzy thing. They're
Okay.
very, very huge. They're kind of taking over I would say the mainstream space from a New York perspective. Like when I think of New York and mainstream, I think of them. I think of Ice Spice.
I Spice,
I
yeah.
think I think of who else? I'm trying to think of mainstream because a lot of New York is definitely that drill sound, and
Yeah.
that drill sound's not really mainstream.
Yeah.
But if I can like put it, it's like Cash Cobain, Bass Swag, Ice Spice, that kind of fun, groovy little thing where everybody's nodding their head and everyone's like hypersexual in their lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like even like what's his name? K Flock, who I don't know if you guys know who he is, but
Yeah, I'm familiar.
but he was like life in prison is what he got.
Yeah, life in prison. The guy, the guy's story is pretty much he came up as fast as he like kind of left. Came up, had super viral hits on TikTok. Everyone's just like, who is this guy? Super aggressive thing. Kind of going off the wave of a Pop Smoke, right? With that aggression, but it's like more raw, where he's like talking about actually killing people. Versus Pop Smoke was more, he had a more light kind of thing going. Everyone's just like, whoa, what is this? And it garnered a lot of attention. And then, it's like where life imitates art, where, some guy, he sees some guy talking shit. One thing leads to another, and he shoots in broad daylight. And the thing is, New York, there's CCTV cameras everywhere. So to shoot someone in broad daylight in New York, you're retarded. Uh, so he
Like
does this in
Luigi,
broad daylight.
Yeah,
Luigi.
exactly.
So he does this in broad daylight and gets life in prison. And then that's the story of K Flock, you know?
Hmm.
See, like again, that's something that I think is very specific to East Coast,
Yeah,
right?
I just feel like there's more friction when you're in the East Coast and New York, like just people are closer together, so there's more friction, right? Instead of like
Yeah.
LA or here, even here, like here it's like so spread out. Um, but yeah, I just feel like New York has that like more friction, more uh yeah, like gunk. I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, everybody's just so crammed together. So it's just like if somebody touches me, I'm hot. I'm hot. It's on site.
For sure. Yeah.
That's the funny thing though, because it's like even that idea of like, you feeling special in a place like New York, like just like imagine like wearing like the most expensive outfit and you have to get on a subway where a homeless man is pissing next to you and there's
Right.
rats crawling at your feet. It's like it humbles you really fast, like no matter
Yeah.
how you feel. Like even if you were to take like, a taxi, it's like you're in traffic for hours. So you get humbled very fast. You
Yeah.
Yeah.
know, not a lot of places have that humbling, energy because like you can like stay in your rarefied air if you're in Highland Park and you don't have to ever leave Highland Park.
Yeah.
You can stay in Beverly Hills if you want to, right? But like in a place like New York or Chicago, it's just like no, like you can try, but the world is gonna push you in your face and say like, no, this is what life is like. Like someone had a bad day and now your commute is ruined.
Especially those winters over there. Those winters are so harsh. Like
Yeah.
people are just tougher, you know?
Yeah, I think it definitely breeds a level of creativity because when you're in this environment where you have so many different walks of life, so many different experiences, and they're all going through the same thing, it's like, man, it only kind of brings out this sense of, okay, how can I stand out? How can I stand out but still maintain be myself? And that's just kind of the mentality I think everybody has. Like, how can I stand out from with my surroundings with still being authentic? Because New York kind of just breeds that versus LA is like, how can I do things to fit in? Because it's this idea of if I don't fit in the LA space, I'm kicked out. And if I'm kicked out, I have to go back to Omaha, Nebraska. It's like I don't want to go back to Omaha, Nebraska. But with New York, it's like there's no, I mean, you have your true New Yorkers, right? People that grew up there, but they're interacting with immigrants. They're interacting with people that move from different walks of life, like Europe, maybe other states across the nation. So it's just everyone's just like, okay, you go to the idea of when you move to New York, you go to with the idea of, okay, I'm going to do something to kind of authentically kind of stick out for myself, right? But when you go to LA, it's kind of like I have to meet Paris Hilton. I have to meet Kim Kardashian. I have to get in that circle because if I don't, it's like, what is it all for? So it's just, I think it's just a mentality of what each one kind of brings, you know?
No, 100%. See, like I think it's funny because especially when it comes to that idea of like, being accepted in a place that has so much culture to it or so much energy to it. Like I think LA is very particular in that because, you know, they don't like to really question things here, right? Like, like even when you like ask like simple questions or someone's like, "Hey, I'm going to this rave festival," and you just ask them like, well, why do you like rave music? I'm just curious. And then they're just like, bro. Like, all right, close it out, don't get fed. Right? Not
But
gonna ask the question.
do you
Right?
feel do you feel like that's because it's like a lot of like sheepish behavior, like just follow the crowd, or what do you think that is?
See, I just think the idea of sticking out too much like a sore thumb, right? Not in a sense of like, oh, you're an individualist, but like just trying to be anti whatever is popular sentiment in the group you're in is just sacrosanct. Like you'll be looked at as a pariah, but no one will tell you a pariah because everyone was like thinking to themselves, is this person right? I don't know. Let's not talk about right. Right? Because again, like that idea of like, rebelling against something in Los Angeles is just a bit odd because you don't really have to, right? You can definitely find your group of people that agree with you. So
Yeah.
when you choose a rebel in a group of people that just accepted, like we go to we go to Poppy every Saturday, and you're like, well, I don't want to go to Poppy this Saturday. And you're like, huh? Like, were we ever friends? It's like I don't.
Yeah, because the more you ask the questions, the more you kind of break it down. You'll kind of realize where it's like, dang, like we have nothing in common. Our interests are not the same. I think we all been faking it this entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like you don't want to disembezzle that illusion. Because if you disembezzle that illusion, it's like, fuck, why are we all here? What are we even doing? I said I wanted to be an actor, now I want to do this. I said I want to do this, and I want to do that. And I've just been hopping around from group to group because it was comfy. And it's like now it's like you ask me questions. I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
It's so crazy because like even like before I moved to Los Angeles, like where you hear stories of people like coming to LA and then being down bad because they were like used by someone or they did some weird shit that like messed them up mentally. As an outsider, you're like, how is that possible? But as soon as you move here, you're like, I totally get it. Like, I get why people go crazy here because it's so easy to lose your way because it's just the most simplest thing to do. It's just like, someone saying like, "Hey, have you ever been to this place?" It's like, "I've never been to that area." It's like, "Oh, come on, let me show you." And then, you're in someone's house and you hear noises downstairs and you're like, "No one's questioning that." All right.
It feels like you're in an episode of Atlanta where like in the Amsterdam season when they're like, is nobody questioning this? Like they just keep,
Yeah.
this is weird, bro. Like what's going on?
The
Yeah.
100%, 100%. Like, it was funny because, like, even that idea of, like, artistic nature, right? Like, there was like this insecurity I had as a child where I thought I would never be a great artist because I wasn't autistic enough because like every person I saw, they were just like a little like weird in everything they did, right? Like like even when you see like great artists, like they don't look at you in the eye because they're a little weirded out by personal conversation. They say the most outlandish things, and then like when you just realize like no, people kind of just adopted that mentality because they think that is like the energy you're supposed to have to be like great in a sense, right? So a lot of people they'll kind of just say the most random things just to get like a rise or reaction from people and think like, wow, this person is innovative. I'm like, no, like they're not innovative. Like you could just mix any version of Mad Libs together and convince people that it's interesting. But when you ask the questions, you just realize like, oh no, it's just more smoke to cloud what you're really seeing, which is just this person that used to be a child that had dreams and then decided to make this version of themselves their personality based off of what they see, right? Like no version of yourself is really who you are. It's just who you want to be. You know, you can choose to be anything you want to be. So whenever you see someone acting weird in a place like this, you're just like, "Wow, you just really wanted to be that guy." Like, like that guy just like randomly, uh, slapping people's asses at a party, and everyone's just like, "It's okay, he owns the house." I'm like, no.
It's so funny, like what you described is kind of what popped into my head from what you described is Kanye West.
Yeah.
Because I was watching a clip, and I'm not the guy to like break down clips or anything, because I think things could be taken out of context. But in this sense, I was like, okay, I could kind of get the message here. It's this producer, his name's Digital Nas. He's very well known in the underground rap space, but he's got a connect with Kanye West. And I saw them mixing this track called Heil Hitler for his new album. And I was just like, I was just listening to it, and I was just like, I was listening to it, I was just like, I feel as if Kanye is just kind of reaching for things and just seeing like, how can I just be the most controversial person? Because just like in my head, I'm like, okay, we get that you are eccentric and you do all these things, but there's a certain point of time where it's just like, bro, it kind of feels forced. Where I'm just like, we get your viewpoint, but to make a song where you're just like, ah, Hitler, I'm just like, bro, come on, come on.
It's
And
like
then you
a,
calling dudes like, and then you calling dudes like Kai Cenat corny and streamers corny, and it's just like, bro, that's your opinion, first of all. Second of all, we can see as a consumer, right? I'm just thinking like this is corny because I'm just like, bro, like why are you making songs called high? Like we get it, bro. Like we get your perspective, and to like make it into a song, just kind of it's just, I'm just like, bro, like yeah, there's no real reason to do so other than for shock value purpose, which I'm just like, okay, that in myself is kind of corny, you know. So it's just like it's the idea of just kind of throwing things and just doing things. I'm like, what can cause the most
but I just feel like he's trying to be controversial with the lowest hanging fruit there is. It's like,
facts?
it's so easy. It's like what's the yeah, it's just
Yeah,
very cringe.
See, I think it's like really hard now to be like shocked by anything. Like I can't remember the last time I looked at something and I was like, "Oh my God." Like what the fuck? Like I can't remember that last time because every single day I see something that is so weird. Like I remember this was like the weirdest thing, like the weirdest thing. I was scrolling through Twitter and I was just like watching some like backstage wrestling thing, right? And I scroll up and it's just a couple dudes in Khan chopping someone's head off. And I'm like, okay, this is what life is. I was like, this is what life is, you know? And I was weirded out that I wasn't like psyched out by that. Because like in reality, that something like that should make you feel like, oh my gosh. But you just get bombarded with so much crazy stuff that it's hard for anyone to really shock your system anymore.
Let
and
me ask you, or go ahead.
that's what I'm saying. Like the internet is such a weird diaspora of just things that you can see, read, and all these things, and it's only gotten bigger just through technological advances. So you get exposed to it more. So we see a guy like Kanye West, you're just like, bro, like you said, Kula Khan. It's like, bro, like I just saw Kula Khan, bro. Like right now, what you're just doing, you're just throwing things into the space and just thinking things will stick to keep yourself in the conversation. But it's like, bro, we get your viewpoint, we get all these things.
So let me ask in like a different perspective, or a different field. Who do you think is the most controversial designer, like in terms of fashion?
Like in history or just now?
Yeah, yeah, all time.
Oh man, Alexander McQueen.
Alexander McQueen for sure.
What's up, man? Like I have like two of his books that I just recently what like the most amazing pieces of photography
Oh
that
wow.
exist, the most amazing stories that exist in these
Just
books. Like
Oh, open some random pages.
It's like this one too, which is like the coolest cover ever.
Oh. Oh, that's
Yeah,
sick.
yeah.
Open some random pages.
Right. So it's like first page I open, right? Like this random concoction of a dress, right? It's just like, you know, for the time being, it's just it was definitely more risque. For now, it's not even that daring, right? But he was the first one to do it. Even like look at like pieces like this, right? Like again, it's just like the most daring pieces of art that someone can create. Right now, if anyone were to do these things, it's not as it's
That is like going through shit as a human and like trying to like bring out everything you have in you into a piece, you know?
mm,
When I see those the kind of like high art. Like just imagine everything you went through since you were born and then and then you have technical skills too, right? And then
100%.
you just put it into like all your energy and your vision and your imagination into one piece. And that's amazing to me.
Almost definitely. I think especially when it came to him, you know, uh, the idea of him being like such a well-known designer was, weird at the time because of not only the way he decided to make clothes, but how he boosted his trajectory through Givenchy in his own personal house. Right. It was like kind of this like weird thing because he is so off center. And for him to like do something with a brand like that and still make it off center, but people still like it, right? Well, at the time, people didn't really like it, but they like it now because he passed away, right? But it's just one of those things that, you're just like, yeah, like you can tell every bit of his personality went into deciding what to do. Like even for his early collections, like if you watch the documentary, he didn't really have any materials to use, so he just made things out of like garbage bags. He made things out of like silicone wrap and just did whatever he could. He was like, yeah, I mean, it's more about what this means. Like people are gonna see the beautiful gown, but when they see it's made out of garbage bag, they're gonna know that the designer is broke, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
There's this really good it's well it's a book. It's also a movie. The book is way better, but let me just get the author right because I forgot. It's called the the book is called The Perfume. It's by a German um German author. If you there's a movie, it's okay. The movie's okay, but the book is really good. And I don't want to give out. It's a short book, but I don't want to give out much, but it's like this orphan that his whole uh reason to exist is to create the most perfect perfume. So, and how he does it, I don't want to say, but it's like that's part of but to me, it's one of the best stories ever written because every other story is either love, power, or something in between, right? But this story is about aesthetics. Like he just wants to achieve the most beautiful thing ever. So you don't see that. And I think what you just described about Alexander McQueen kind of like I thought about this story. Because that's just the whole purpose of the guy is just to he has this burning desire to like create this an amazing thing and it's all in his head. He just needs to execute, right? So that's few artists have that, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Because I think when it comes to like achieve wanting to achieve perfection, you have to admit that what you're doing isn't it. right? Like you have to admit that, like, there's always another step, right? And I think a lot of people, when they get that gratification from other people, it's just like, huh, I must be doing something right. So they kind of stay on this plateau of like mediocrity, like I remember, when I first saw um the Pharrell Williams Louis Vuitton collection, I was like, wow, this is like, the mediocre Olympics. Like, but people love it, right? Because it's Pharrell doing Louis Vuitton. It's kind of cool. But when you accept mediocrity, you never get anything better, right? Which is why it all goes downward. And most designers, whenever they make something, people are like, this is their best collection ever. Every time it always gets worse. Like
Yeah.
there's really no time it's never gotten better. It always gets worse. So it's like that thing of just like having to understand that, you know, you're trying to achieve perfection and you may one day get to your version of perfection, but believing that won't allow you to do better things, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
Wait, what are
negative.
you gonna say?
There you can go.
I about to say it's the pursuit that makes the the pursuit of perfection that in itself is the idea and the goal versus like trying to get to perfection. Because it's like, for instance, like when you talk to Rick Owens, like every collection that he talks about, he says, I just reference everything that I've done in the past and I just say, use that to fuel what I do now. And what I do now is my favorite. And then I do that for the next and next. And then what I do now is my favorite. And he's like, I just never say like, he says he never likes to look at collections from his past as a sense of that was my best work. It was a sense of that was a reference from something of this world that I'm creating. And now is my best work. But my best work isn't my best work because I haven't created my next work. So it's just always this idea of creating. And the process of just creating is the journey, is the perfection, right? It's just this constant thing of like wanting to create that in itself, that process of just constantly creating and pushing yourself is perfection.
Because I think there's a reason why Alexander McQueen killed himself after his Plato Atlantis show. Because
Mhm.
there was no bad words about that show. Everyone was like, this is the peak of fashion cutting, of show performance. And then literally a week later, he was gone. Because, I feel like when you kind of know that and you're like, I'm done, like it's like the most depressing feeling ever. Because like once you get that point of like no one can compete with this, well then you can't compete with it.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna be making subpar things. You're just gonna be doing subpar work.
Okay, before the call ends, like if Alexander McQueen is at the top, like Rick Owens, how far is Rick Owens from?
I would say he's effing in that tier one for me, in my opinion. He's in that tier one. If you can tier it, he's definitely tier one with Alex.
See, I don't, when you guys get the chance before this